The line went dead, not with a shout, not with an argument, but with a sterile click that echoed the finality of the decision. My mom's voice, always so smooth, so perfectly modulated, had delivered the verdict. Your sister wants her boyfriend to have a perfect first impression, and having you there would make her look bad. I stood in my own garage, hands stiff with engine grease, the raw November chill biting through my worn denim jacket. I was 29 years old, Willow Carter, and my family, the people I fixed, the people I shielded, the people I poured my life into, had just cut me from Thanksgiving dinner like a rusty bolt. I didn't argue, I didn't beg. I just hung up and stared at the oil-stained concrete floor, waiting for an answer it couldn't provide. To my family, the Carters' image was currency. My mother was the chief curator of our perfect lives, ensuring every smile, every anecdote, and every piece of furniture looked plucked from a magazine. My younger sister, Ava, was their masterpiece, their golden brand ambassador. A public relations was who floated through life expecting and receiving applause. Then there was me, the useful one, the handy one, the mechanic who spent more time in the honest scent of oil than in the perfumed air of their curated life. Dad would pat my shoulder and say I was handy, a dismissive word that felt like a lifetime. Summary, I was the silent fixer. When the bills piled up, I covered them. When Eva scraped her fender, I drove through the night. I learned early that challenging the Carter narrative only created unnecessary noise. So, I stayed quiet, strong, and indispensable, yet utterly invisible at the moments that mattered. My garage became my sanctuary. The cold, logical mechanics of rebuilding an old engine made more sense than the twisted logic of my family. Machines never judged the grease under my nails. They only responded to precision and skill. They didn't compare me to Ava. They simply accepted the effort I put in. This Thanksgiving rejection, while deeply painful, wasn't a surprise. My mother delivered the cruel sentence with the same sweet, polished tone she used for ordering flowers. But this time, something shifted inside me. It wasn't the eruption of anger I expected, but a cold, quiet click of realization. A decade of being the family's spare part had finally taught me a lesson. I was only valued when I was serving them, never when I was simply being. I cleaned my tools with a newfound, deliberate slowness. I locked the garage, the metallic scent of my workspace a comfort as I walked home alone that night. The sharp wind of winter carried a thought I'd never entertained before. What would it look like to build a life where they didn't exist at all? I thought that was the end of it, just a quiet, lonely holiday I would navigate alone. But the very next morning, the fragile peace I'd found was shattered. Someone was pounding on my front door, hard enough to rattle the cheap frame. I pulled it open, still in my pajamas, and found my entire family on my porch. Mom, Dad, Ava, and the new, well-dressed boyfriend, Logan Hayes. Their faces were red, not just from the cold, but from an overwhelming, palpable rage. Mid-part hook, call to action. Ava's boyfriend, Logan, was watching me, quiet and still, while my parents exploded. The look in his eyes wasn't anger, it was confusion. Before we move on to the shocking confrontation, tell me, have you ever felt used or invisible by the people who are supposed to care the most? Share your story in the comments. The cold morning air seemed to thicken with their fury. Mom didn't bother with a greeting. Why did you tell people you weren't invited? She demanded, her voice an angry slice. Your grandmother called us. Do you know how humiliated we were? Humiliated. The word echoed the one she used to describe my presence at their dinner. My father shook his head in disappointment, a familiar parental performance. You always twist things, Willow, always making us look like the bad guys. Ava, wrapped in a pristine cream coat, looked at me with open disgust. It's honestly unbelievable that you're doing this. You know how much pressure I'm under to make this first impression perfect. I let them talk, their entitlement piling up like an avalanche of bricks. I was the embarrassment, the problem, the one who made them look bad by revealing the simple truth. Logan Hayes remained silent, his gaze fixed on me, trying to reconcile their version of me with the person standing before him. Then, just as Mom wound up for her next accusation, Logan spoke. His voice was calm, clear, and it stopped the entire argument cold. "Hold on," he said, stepping slightly closer. "Wait, Willow Carter, you're the one who restored the 70 to Charger?" My family scoffed, clueless about the achievement Logan recognized. The truth was, I wasn't just a fixer, I was a renowned craftsman. Logan, Ava's key to success, knew a version of me my own family never bothered to see. But why did he bring this up now? In front of them? And what would his recognition cause? 70 to Charger didn't just create silence, it created a vacuum. A question about an old car restoration shouldn't have been powerful enough to paralyze for angry people. But it was, because in that single moment, Logan saw something in me that my family had spent decades actively ignoring. "What? No," Ava sputtered, the perfect sheen of her carefully constructed composure cracking. She looked genuinely baffled. "She just fixes cars. She's a mechanic." Logan shook his head slowly, his gaze still on me, now laced with genuine respect. "No, she builds them, restores them." I followed the build thread for months on the classic car forums. The detail on the chassis work alone was incredible. People called it the ghost Charger because of how clean the lines were. My parents exchanged bewildered, almost panicked glances. Dad scoffed, forcing a laugh. "You're joking, right? Willow's good with a wrench." "But she's not," he trailed off, unable to connect the image of their handy daughter with the incredible craftsmanship Logan described. Mom's frown deepened. She was completely thrown off the script she had rehearsed for this confrontation. Ava's cheeks flushed a violent crimson. The perfect narrative, the one where I was the embarrassing background character, was visibly collapsing beneath her cream-colored coat. For the first time, an outsider, someone crucial to their image, was looking at me not as a tool or a liability, but as a person of recognized skill and value, and they hated it. The betrayal in their eyes was colder than the morning air. I felt a quiet, powerful shift inside me. This moment wasn't about the Charger. It was about acknowledgement. Logan had seen me more clearly in 30 seconds than my entire family had in 29 years. Mom recovered first, smoothing her jacket with a practiced, rigid smile. She stepped squarely in front of Logan, literally blocking my recognized talent from his view. "Well, that's all very nice, Logan, dear, but it doesn't change anything about family matters." She emphasized the word family. "If it were a legal contract, we came here because we need to talk about responsibilities." That word responsibilities had been the chain round my ankle my entire life. Dad quickly seized the pivot. He cleared his throat, his authoritative voice returning. "The roof is leaking again, Willow. The contractor said it needs a look today, before the next freeze. We told him you'd handle it." Ava chimed in instantly, her voice now a desperate plea, entirely forgetting the humiliation she claimed I caused. "And I need a money transfer for decorations for my holiday event. It's huge for my career. Can you send it by this weekend? You know how important appearances are." I stared at her, the request hanging in the air like a grotesque punchline. "You're asking me for money and labor after and inviting me from Thanksgiving because I was an embarrassment." She rolled her eyes, treating my question like a childish, dramatic flourish. "Don't be silly. This is separate. Family helps family, Willow. Or have you forgotten that?" Mom nodded sharply in agreement, backing her up. Mid-part hook, call to action. They didn't come to apologize or reconcile. They came to collect on the unspoken debts of my childhood. Logan, standing witness to this blatant extraction, was speechless. How would you react if your family treated you like an ATM and a free laborer? Let me know below. And don't forget to subscribe for more shocking family drama. Logan's eyes darted from my parents to Ava, then back to me. His expression was a perfect mix of disgust and disbelief. "You're serious?" he asked quietly, directing the question at the Carters. After everything you just said to her, accusing her of humiliating you, you're here demanding money and free labor. Dad's face tightened. This is none of your concern, Logan. But Logan didn't back down. He continued to study me with an unwavering, clinical clarity. Is this normal for them, Willow? I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Ava threw her hands up, exasperated by the interruption. Can we focus, Willow? Dad already told everyone you'd handle the roof. Don't make us look stupid. That word stupid was the trigger. It wasn't about the roof or the money. It was always about image. Something inside me snapped, not with fire, but with ice-cold conviction. It was a slow, final settling, like sand finally resting at the bottom of a container. A truth I couldn't ignore any longer. No, I said, it wasn't loud. It wasn't angry. It was just steady, anchored, and final. Mom blinked. What did you say? I'm not fixing the roof, I repeated. I'm not paying for decorations. I'm not covering any bills. Not anymore. Silence. Sharp, profound, and utterly deafening. Dad took a step forward, his voice low and threatening. After everything we've done for you, I cut him off, my voice steady. Everything you've done. You mean feeding me as a child? That was parenting. Dad, it wasn't a lifetime service contract. Ava scoffed, incredulous. You're being ridiculous. You always help. Not anymore, I stated again, the words landing like heavy stones. Mom's voice rose, losing its polished edge. We raised you, and I'm grateful, I replied calmly. But you don't get to use that gratitude as a blank check for entitlement. Asterisk. The wind whistled between us, carrying the shocking sound of their entitlement finally being refused. Logan exhaled slowly, a hint of relief in his expression. Good for you, he murmured. Loud enough for my family to hear. Ava's face twisted into an ugly snarl, seeing her perfect partner align himself with the embarrassment. Her desperate fury was building, but the real devastation was yet to come. What proof did Willow have that would completely destroy her family's carefully crafted image? And why did Logan step forward just as they were preparing to retaliate? Why are you taking her side? Ava's whisper was sharp, laced with the panic of someone watching a necessary piece of their life slide away. Logan didn't even look at her. He kept his eyes on my parents, unwavering, because she isn't wrong. He stated evenly. The dynamic on the porch had completely inverted. My family, the proud Carters, were now standing exposed. Well, the mechanic they tried to discard was backed by the very person Ava needed to impress. Mom's cheeks flushed crimson. Dad's fists clenched uselessly at his sides. Ava, sensing a profound loss, looked ready to weep from fury. You'll regret this, Willow, Dad snapped, resorting to the tired threat he'd used since I was a child. I shook my head slowly. No, I regret letting it go on this long. The word leave was steady on my lips. They didn't move immediately. They were accustomed to being obeyed, to having me absorb their demands. But then, Logan, the man meant to cement Ava's future, took a deliberate step back, not toward them, but slightly behind me. An act of silent solidarity that was the final catalyst. It was too much for them. My family retreated in a storm of aggressive indignation, slamming car doors with theatrical violence as they drove away, snow swirling up in their wake. I watched them go, my heart strangely calm, my breathing steady. A line had been drawn, a boundary I finally had the strength to defend. The next few weeks were quiet, marked only by the steady hum of my garage heater. The silence from my family felt less like abandonment and more like breathing room. I worked, I slept, I started teaching a few local teens how to wrench on old engines, something truly fulfilling. My life was simple, authentic, and finally my own. Mid-part hook, call to action. The holidays arrived, and instead of navigating the stifling, curated perfection of the Carter home, I organized a modest, warm Christmas Eve gathering right here in my garage. It was filled with the people I'd chosen. Mr. Bennett, an elderly customer who became a friend, Tasha, a young woman from the community shelter, and the handful of eager teens. The scent of motor oil was mixed with pine and fresh-baked cookies. Do you think found family can be stronger than the family you're born into? Comment your thoughts below and hit like if you believe in choosing your own peace. My chosen family filled the space with genuine laughter and messy joy. Nothing curated, everything real. I was reaching for more cider when the main garage door rattled so violently that everyone jumped. Before I could process the sudden intrusion, the doors flew open, and a blast of winter air, snow, and raw, unrestrained rage slammed into the room. It was Mom, Dad, and Aver. Their faces were red, not just from the cold, but from the weeks of simmering indignation that had finally boiled over. Mom pointed a finger at me, her usual polish completely gone. You humiliated us. Do you know what your relatives said after you abandoned Thanksgiving and told them those lies? Dad stepped forward, jabbing the air. You think you're better than us now? Now that you have your little gauge and your followers, Eva shoved past them both, mascara already streaking down her cheeks. The words she spoke next were the real reason for their dramatic rival. Logan left. She choked out, her voice cracking. He walked out on Christmas. He said he needed space from my family. And from me. She looked at me with a furious, desperate glare. This is your fault. A low murmur ran through the room. The teenager stared. Mr. Bennett slowly stood up, gripping his cane. I didn't make him leave, I said quietly, the calm in my voice contrasting sharply with her hysteria. Aver's voice shot up to a shriek. Yes, you did. You took him from me. No, a firm voice said from the doorway. Logan stepped into view, snow dusted on his coat. He was looking at Aver with a sadness that bordered on pity. She didn't. He confirmed, the sound of his voice silencing everyone. Ava spun on him, confusion mixing with her despair. Why are you here? Logan looked at her, then back at the warm, chaotic scene in my garage. Because I wanted to be someplace genuine tonight. Your sister built something here, Avar. And you never appreciated who she is. My parents gasped at his direct assault on their family identity. Just as Mom lunged forward, regaining her venomous focus, I moved. I walked behind my workbench and pulled out the large, brown envelope I had meticulously prepared weeks ago. It was a package filled with my counterattack, the undeniable proof of their dependency. What exactly was in the envelope? And would presenting this evidence push my family past rage into outright destruction? Mom sputtered, regaining her footing after Logan's unexpected arrival and harsh critique. Excuse me, this is our family business. Logan, Willow, tell him he's wrong. Tell him you didn't pay our bills, fix our house, and essentially carry this family for years. Tell him we didn't rely on you. She demanded a lie, but her frantic demand only confirmed the truth to everyone present. Logan watched, his expression hardened with finality. I stepped behind the long, oil-stained workbench that served as our buffet table. I pulled open a drawer and took out the item I'd prepared weeks ago, long before I admitted to myself why. The thick, brown envelope. I held it out, not angrily, but with deliberate, calm authority. These are the payments, I said. Everything I've covered for you over the years. Dad snatched the envelope with a triumphant sneer, assuming it was some kind of feeble accounting or perhaps a Christmas gift. He unfolded the contents, and his triumphant expression instantly dissolved into shock. Inside were copies of documents, insurance payments, contractor invoices for repairs, utility fees, emergency car fixes. Every dollar, every forgotten favor, meticulously tracked and cataloged, not as a list of demands, but as a clear, irrefutable ledger of dependency. Mom's face drained of color, going utterly white beneath the heat of her rage. Eva's lips trembled, not with sadness, but with the dawning horror of exposure. You kept track, Mom whispered, the realization hitting her like a physical blow. No, I corrected, my voice steady. I kept boundaries. You just never noticed them until now. A heavy, suffocating silence spread through the garage. My chosen family watched, their faces sober, Understanding the depth of the betrayal I had just documented, Dad's voice was shaking, laced with disbelief. You're unbelievable. Willow, we raised you, we fed you, you owe us respect. No, I said, meeting his eyes calmly. Owe you honesty. And here it is. I'm done. The account is closed. Eva's reaction was explosive. A high-pitched scream tore through the air. You ruined everything. This is your petty revenge. Logan stepped quickly between her and me, shielding me. Stop blaming her for your behavior. Ava, he warned, his voice low and dangerous. Mom lunged forward, not at me, but at the papers in Dad's hands, trying to snatch them as if she could physically erase the evidence. No one will believe this. No one will believe you. Mid-part hook. Call to action. It's an intense moment when Willow puts down the ledger, revealing the shocking financial truth about her parents' dependency. Do you think exposing family secrets, even if true, is ever worth the cost of the relationship? Share your opinion and hit the notification bell to catch the dramatic conclusion. I didn't flinch. I simply gestured around the room at the quiet, watching faces. They already do. Every person in the garage, Mr. Bennett, Tesher. The teens watched the Carters, not with hostility, but with the quiet, undeniable truth of witnesses who saw their shame laid bare. There was only clarity and disappointment in their gaze. Dad's voice broke, the last vestiges of his authority crumbling. You'll regret this, Willow. You'll be alone. I shook my head, the feeling of peace returning. No, I regret letting it go on this long. Ava, desperate and tearful, turned to Logan. Please, come home. This isn't who we are. Logan looked at her with a profound, final sadness. It's exactly who you've always been, Ava. I just didn't see it until I saw how you treat the people who matter most. His confirmation was the last nail in the coffin of their perfect family image. Mom backed away, chest heaving. Dad muttered low, furious curses. All three looked smaller than I had ever seen them exposed. Defeated, with no audience left to impress, I walked to the main garage door and opened it wider, letting the biting wind rush in. I didn't need to yell. I simply stepped aside and said, leave, for the first time in my life. They listened completely. They stumbled out, their silhouettes swallowed quickly by the snowy night, the storm carrying away the last remnants of their indignation. Logan remained. He turned to me, the quiet hum of the heater now the loudest sound in the room. Are you okay? He asked. I nodded, not because the fight was over, but because something fundamental had finally settled within me. The rage and the pain were replaced by a quiet, profound peace. Logan was free from Ava, and he stood in my garage, the sanctuary I built. My family was gone, their hold broken. But now a new dynamic was forming. Logan wasn't just an ally. He was a man who had chosen my world over Ava's. What was Logan's real intention for walking out on Eve or on Christmas? Was it just decency? Or was there a deeper reason for his connection to the ghost charger and to me? The answer, and the unexpected aftermath, is revealed now. The storm outside lasted through the night, a harsh counterpoint to the quiet warmth inside the garage. After my family's dramatic exit, the atmosphere slowly, gently, began to heal. The teenagers went back to their plates. Mr. Bennett settled down with his cider. The laughter returned, a little subdued at first, then growing louder, like the confident rumble of a perfectly tuned engine. I walked back into the light of the string bulbs, feeling the immense weight of decades finally lift from my shoulders. I was no longer carrying the crushing financial and emotional burdens of two families. Now I only had my own chosen life to manage. Logan stayed for a bit, quiet and helpful. He assisted Mr. Bennett to his car and ensured the teens had plenty of leftovers packed for the shelter. When he finally came to say goodnight, he stopped by my workbench. He didn't offer any grand romantic gesture, just a quiet, honest moment. He pressed a hand briefly to my shoulder, a gesture of respect, not possession. You built something really good here, Willow, he said, his eyes scanning the warm, lived-in space. Don't let anyone take that peace from you. Thank you, Logan, I replied, meaning it more than he could know, for showing up, for seeing what was real. It wasn't hard to see, he said, a touch of self-reproach in his voice. I just wasn't looking clearly before. He left, and I watched the silence he created settle back into the room. It was the calmest night I had experienced in years. In the days that followed, the silence from my parents wasn't punitive. It was expansive. It was the glorious, wide open space I needed to breathe and grow. The garage work picked up, fueled by genuine goodwill and word-of-mouth recommendations. The teens returned for Saturday morning lessons, eager and respectful. Tasha and Lily brought me a handmade thank you card, a lopsided star glued to construction paper. More meaningful than any polished gift Ava ever bought. Mid-part hook, call to action. The new year brought a sense of calm and independence to Willow, but even freedom requires maintenance. What is the most important step you've taken to create distance from a toxic relationship? Share your advice in the comments below. And subscribe to see how Willow turns her newfound independence into a thriving success. January settled in, bringing cold mornings and the comforting smell of welding smoke. I started taking on more challenging restorations, the kind of work that truly utilized the skill Logan had recognized. I was building a future that belonged only to me. Steady, chosen, earned. Then, a week later, Logan showed up again. This time, he didn't knock. He waited outside the open garage bay door, leaning against a clean, black sedan that looked far too expensive for a casual visit. I need to apologize, he said, walking toward me. I wiped my hands on a shop rag. You don't owe me an apology, Logan. You helped. No, I mean about Ava, he corrected, his expression serious. I should have broken up with her weeks ago. I knew something was fundamentally wrong with that relationship, but I kept pushing for a perfect first impression for her parents, too. I fell for the same way they did. He paused, then confessed. When I saw the news about the 72 Charger, their ghost Charger, I knew the person who built that couldn't possibly be the vapid, embarrassing sister Ava described. That kind of work takes integrity. It takes patience. That was the first crack in the perfect image Ava was selling me. Logan's confession confirmed that he was looking for an exit long before the Thanksgiving debacle, but he dropped an unexpected bombshell about his own background. I'm not just a successful finance guy, Willow, he admitted, looking directly at the oil under my fingernails. My father was a career mechanic. That's how I recognized your work, and that's why this place, he gestured around the messy, beloved garage, feels more like home than Eva's perfectly staged apartment ever did. The revelation wasn't just that he respected my craft. He was part of my world. But this deep connection was based on the fact he was Ava's ex. Could Willow ever start something real with a man so recently intertwined with her family's drama? And how would her family react to Logan actively choosing her? The future hangs in the balance in part 6. Logan's confession hung in the air. He wasn't just a successful finance guy. He was the son of a mechanic, a man who understood the value of the honest work I did. His recognition of the ghost Charger was a genuine link to my true self, not just a social compliment. That's how I knew Ava's story about you being a liability couldn't be true. Logan explained. My father, God rest his soul, taught me everything about integrity and craftsmanship. I saw your work and recognized the care and precision. It was the only thing that felt real during that whole holiday charade with your family. He looked around the garage again, this time with a deep sense of belonging. This is real, Willow. The house they live in, that life Ava pushes, it's all presentation. We talked for hours that day, leaning against the workbench, the scent of fresh coffee mixing with the familiar motor oil. I learned that Logan had been searching for an escape from the superficial corporate ladder climb that Ava represented. He had felt just as stifled by the expectation of perfection as I had been embarrassed by it. He wasn't choosing me over Ava. He was choosing authenticity over pretense. The chemistry between us was built on mutual respect and shared experience of being suffocated by expectations. But I was cautious. My family is not going to let this go, Logan. I warned him, you leaving Aver is one thing, you choosing to spend time with me. The embarrassment is an entirely different kind of public betrayal to them. He nodded gravely. I know, but I'm done living on their terms. I came here today for another reason. Actually, I need your help. Mid-part hook. Call to action. Logan and Willow are finding common ground. But the shadow of the Carter family is long. Will their growing connection spark an irreversible final confrontation? Do you think Willow should risk starting a relationship with Ava's ex, knowing the family drama it will cause? Let me know in the comments, and hit share if you're rooting for Willow's happiness. Logan explained that the luxury sedan he drove, a recent acquisition required for his high-profile job, was plagued by a difficult-to-diagnose engine issue. It had been towed to dealerships, but no one could fix it without simply replacing the entire complex system of $15,000 fix. The dealers are just throwing parts at it. My dad would have diagnosed this in an hour, he sighed, running a frustrated hand through his hair. I want you to look at it, Willow. Not for free, I'll pay you your full rate. Whatever it is, I trust your hands more than any certified mechanic right now. I agreed immediately. It was a perfect, non-romantic way to solidify our professional trust. I spent the next 2 days under the hood of his sedan, Logan often right beside me, holding the light, asking questions, genuinely interested in the process. We discovered a tiny, frayed wire harness deep in the engine management system, an invisible flaw that only patience and expertise could uncover. As I worked, I felt the sense of purpose deepen. This wasn't fixing a leaky sink for a family that didn't appreciate me. This was solving a complex problem for an appreciative client and a genuine friend. Just as I tightened the final bolt, my phone buzzed with an ominous text message. It wasn't from Mom or Dad. It was from Aver. You think you're so smart. You think you won. Wait till you see what happens next, Willow. You are going to regret embarrassing us in front of the whole town. The threat was clear. They were moving from verbal attack to public retaliation. They wouldn't just be silent. They would actively seek to destroy the business and reputation I had worked so hard to build. What is it? Logan asked. Seeing the sudden shift in my face, I showed him the text. He didn't scoff or dismiss it. He looked concerned. They won't just ignore you. They'll try to discredit you, to paint you as unprofessional. Or worse, I knew exactly what their weapon would be. My business depended on trust and reputation. A few strategically placed negative reviews, a few pointed whispers to key community figures, and my livelihood could be ruined. My father, in particular, had connections in the local planning and zoning board, connections he had never hesitated to wield for petty advantage. I need to prepare, I said, my voice hardening with determination. If they want to fight, they're going to get a clean fight. I'm going to document everything I can, professionally and legally. Logan, however, had an even bigger idea. After watching my methodical and documented work on his car, he realized my meticulousness was a strength. I have an idea that will neutralize their attack before it even starts, he said, pulling out his phone. It involves the Ghost Charger, the classic car forums you restored it on, and a much bigger platform. But you have to be ready to step out of the shadows and embrace the spotlight they tried to keep. What was Logan's plan? To use my restoration work as a shield and a sword against the Carters. And what shocking truth about the family's finances would Logan's professional connections help me uncover? Setting up the final, irreversible ending. The conclusion awaits. In Part 7, Logan's plan was audacious, yet perfectly aligned with my meticulous nature. He knew the Carters' greatest fear was exposure, and their greatest weapon was reputation. You built the Ghost Charger, Willow, he reminded me, a restoration that garnered a cult following online. That's your leverage. His idea was to leverage my recognized talent, not just as a defense, but as a proactive assertion of my professional standing. We're going to create a professional online presence for your garage, he explained, starting with a comprehensive, well-produced video series documenting your next major restoration. We'll showcase your skill, your integrity, and most importantly, your boundaries, and we'll launch it on the very same classic car forums that first recognized you, where my finance connections can ensure it gets amplified. It was an ingenious move. Instead, it would stay for their attacks. I would preempt them by showcasing the very qualities they sought to undermine. The public validation would make any smear campaign seem petty and unbelievable. We started. Immediately, Logan, with his marketing savvy, helped me set up proper social media channels and even connected me with a local videographer who specialized in craftsmanship documentaries. I picked my next restoration project carefully, a battered, forgotten muscle car that represented the raw potential I saw in myself. Mid-part hook, call to action. Willow is about to step into the spotlight. Armed with her talent and Logan's strategic mind, this isn't just about restoring cars, it's about restoring her life. Have you ever transformed a negative situation into an unexpected opportunity? Share your triumph in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe as Willow builds her empire. As I worked, Logan also brought a different kind of insight. Using his professional connections, he discreetly looked into the financial patterns I had documented in my ledger. What he uncovered was more shocking than simple dependency. He found evidence of several questionable transactions, including large sums moved from my parents' joint account to a shell company in Ava's name, payments disguised as business expenses, but with no clear services rendered. It looked like outright financial manipulation, possibly even fraud, designed to prop up Ava's career while bleeding my parents dry and forcing me to cover their increasingly strained finances. The family wasn't just entitled, they were entangled in a web of deceit. This was the ultimate trump card. Not only did I have proof of my direct payments, but Logan had found evidence of their systemic financial impropriety that Ava spearheaded. If they launched a public attack, I would not only defend myself with undeniable proof of my contributions, but I would expose the entire fraudulent foundation of Ava's success. The video series launched with the first phase of the restoration. The response was overwhelming. The classic car community, already aware of the Ghost Charger, embraced Willow's garage with open arms. Within weeks, my follower count skyrocketed, inquiries poured in, and the local news even picked up the story of the mechanic with golden hands who was rebuilding forgotten automotive legends. My reputation wasn't just restored, it was amplified beyond anything my family could ever hope to achieve. My parents and Ava did try to retaliate. A few negative comments appear on my social media posts, vague accusations about family drama and unprofessional conduct. But each one was quickly buried by hundreds of supportive comments from my new, loyal community. My father's attempt to lodge a complaint with the zoning board about noise violations was dismissed without a second thought, thanks to a preemptive, thorough legal review Logan had arranged. The final confrontation wasn't a shouting match. It was a quiet, almost anticlimactic meeting at a coffee shop weeks later. My parents, looking worn and older, initiated it. Ava wasn't with them. Willow, Mom started, her voice devoid of its usual polished edge. We saw your videos and the articles. Yes, I replied calmly. Turns out, people appreciate genuine craftsmanship. Dad, defeated, put a hand on hers. We wanted to say we were wrong about Logan, about everything. It was the closest to an apology I had ever heard, but I knew the full truth. Thanks to Logan's investigation, they weren't there to truly apologize, but to mitigate the damage. You're worried about the financial irregularities, aren't you? I asked quietly, cutting straight to the core of their fear. Their eyes widened. The money Ava was siphoning, the shell company. Logan found it all. A profound silence followed, thick with their guilt. I'm not going to expose you, I continued. Not if you finally leave me alone. Completely. No more demands, no more negativity. Just silence, forever, they agreed, defeated. My family had finally learned the hard way that their power over me was an illusion. Logan and I returned to my garage, to the scent of oil and honest work. We found ourselves rebuilding not just cars,